All right, well, just have a look at it. I got a motorcycle. That's right. Your boy is back on two wheels. Isn't she pretty? I've always wanted a Ducati, you know? And in this video, I wanted to have a little seat here beside a old friend. This isn't my old friend. This is actually a very good friend of mine's old friend. He gave it to me. I'll tell you that story in a little bit. You know, I wrote a book in 2019 called The Unplugged Alpha, and one of the chapters I included in the book was I recommended to men to own a motorcycle. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about my experience getting back on two wheels after 23 odd years, I think it's been, since I've last owned a motorcycle. Share a little bit of my experiences sort of back on two wheels, what I thought of it, if any of my opinions have changed, and a few bits and pieces in and around that, because I'm glad I did it. Before I sort of dive down that rabbit hole and share some of the experiences of the last 1,000 kilometers since I've got this thing, and I'll tell you the story behind it, I want to read you Charles's field report. Charles was the gentleman who had donated this bike to me. He decided to leave the United States and take a job abroad in Asia. He got fed up with the direction the US was heading, and he actually sold all of his stuff with the exception of a few things. And this was one of the things he didn't sell. He had too much sentimental attachment to it. And he said, "Do you want it?" I said, "I'll take it." It's a Ducati 848 Streetfighter, 2013 model, all black. It's very customized. You can get an idea just by sort of the frontal view of it, but you know, you can see he's got this carbon fiber headlight cover, looks like LED lights. A lot of the components have been changed, the mirrors, a lot of things have been moved around, the signals are embedded in here and stuff. I go right down the rabbit hole, there's too many parts to miss, but it's a cool bike. It's got 130 horsepower, probably a little bit more because it's got pipes and a software tune on it. It rips when you twist the throttle. Nice and fun thing to sort of get in and out of the twisties, but I like it. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But let me read you Charles's field report. So he says, "Unless you fly an $80 million sixth-generation fighter jet, riding a motorcycle is the best video game a man can ever play. Your whole body is at stake, totally immersed in the environment. You can feel the wheel lift off as you throttle, body pulled forward in a ball of momentum, the wind gently caressing your face, your hair standing up when your knee gently scrapes the tarmac as you pass the apex, accelerating quickly out of a corner. There's no virtual substitutes for this experience. Some of the finest hours of my life have been on a bike. The 3-hour ride to the ghost town of Monticello, Utah, to Hall's Crossing on a tank of gas that affords only a one-way trip, not knowing whether the ferry would in fact show up to take me across Lake Powell to my destination. It was over 100 degrees in heat, completely devoid of human or human artifacts except for my lone Ducati." I believe it was this bike he was riding at the time when he's reminiscing about this. "As I look across the desert horizon, thinking to myself, if I just ride past that, I will be able to see my destination or something man-made. I would soon be there and looking over the next horizon, wondering the same thing again and again as the void extended endlessly. It was an astounding planetscape like the desolate Tatooine you only see in sci-fi movies, both bewildering and scary. Oftentimes I wanted to stop the bike and take pictures of the massive cliff drops in their crimson glory, but I was too afraid, what if the bike won't start? Under that heat, I would turn into dry jerky and vulture feed within hours. Or when I was riding through the Black Canyon of the Gunnison and a massive thunderstorm arrived, I had nowhere to hide but to push forward. Drops of rain the size of fists clashed against my helmet and gear, and the wind blasted my bike from edge to edge on a narrow canyon road. In that darkness, I can barely make out junipers bending to the storm 5 feet in front of me, while pegmatite along the cliffs, polished over millions of years, echoed blinding thunder flashes at me." You can tell my friend Charles is a bit of a poet. "On a bike, I remember the pastoral tranquility of Lake Como, the salty breeze of the Adriatic Sea, the insanity of Bali's traffic, and the bullet-ridden walls of the abandoned Serbian factories, the chaos and road rage throughout Tel Aviv, and the dozens, if not hundreds of girls coming up to me for pictures and rides. Always say no to them, by the way. On a bike, you witness the world and its beauty. You learn to become more aware, perceptive. You also learn to become more aggressive and take the initiative, yet you also develop a defensive instinct. You have pride, but also humility. So that's his field report. I talked about some of the real reasons why I thought that bikes were a mainstay or something that men should definitely take a look at as they sort of ascend through life and become an adult male. Some of the points that I had written about in 2019 were it provides masculine therapy. You have shared interests, so you can form a camaraderie and friendships. Obviously, the fun, the acceleration, the low cost of entry, the acceleration, the fuel economy, and of course, the attraction, as my friend Charles mentioned, that women have to them. If you want to check out my book, it's on Amazon. It's The Unplugged Alpha. I also have another one that I just released a few months ago called The Top Shelf Man. Both of them have been bestsellers. We've got about 1 million copies out. Now, before I made this video, I did a little search on AI over here. And, I didn't have the benefit of AI back in 2019 when I wrote my book. But I said, what are the top 5 reasons most men recommend motorcycles to others for? And this is what it came up with. Freedom and independence, obviously the most frequently cited reason, offers unconfined experiences, wind, open road, full sensory connection to the environment, unlike being enclosed in a car. Second one was thrill, excitement, and adventure. The third, community, brotherhood, and camaraderie. The fourth, stress release, mental clarity, and escape. And 5, practicality, economy, convenience, and or the cool factor and mastery. So not much has changed since I wrote that book in 2019, but to get back on 2 wheels and have this old friend, I highly reminisce, my 20s. I think I'd stopped riding by somewhere around the age of 30 or so. And I missed it. I missed it a lot. Whenever a friend of mine would pull up at a bike at a social event, or I saw something new at a gas station, I'd always talk to the owner. It was always intriguing and interesting to me, though. There's certain things in life that once they sort of get in your blood, they're always there. You never sort of forget them. I think for me, cars will always be there, but I'm always going to have a strong affinity and a strong connection to motorcycles. I don't think that's ever going to go away. And I've enjoyed, the donation that Charles has given me, his old friend here. She's got 41,000 kilometers on her. She's a little bit tired, probably in the clutch and the clutch lever. I would say, for the most part, the throttle's a little bit loose. Probably not as tight as the day that he got it. But it rides very well. The engine pulls hard. It's a fun bike. I've never owned a V-twin before. All of my bikes were Japanese inline 4s with a full fairing. I will say this, I don't really love the naked feel, especially on the highway. When I was riding bikes 23 years ago, we either had the option of a fully faired sport bike, which is what I would ride, and I'll have my editor put up a couple of images of my past on sport bikes so you can get an idea of what my youth looked like. And there was, of course, the cruisers, and then they sort of blended those 2 genres together, and they created the naked bike. And that's what is sitting, beside me over here, the naked sport bike from Ducati. Like I said earlier, I've always wanted a Ducati. It was always like the pinnacle. It was always the one that you sort of pined for. I'll have my editor put up an image of the Ducati 916 I stood behind in Silverstone in the United Kingdom when I was a young man. I think in my early 20s, 21, 22 or something like that. Trying to look my best, looking like Tom Cruise from Top Gun. These things are fast, they're fun, they're a lot more comfortable in this format. Like I said, I don't love the lack of a fairing. On a highway, it gets very windy. It's not that comfortable. There's a lot more fun to be had, in my opinion, on a fully faired sport bike if your back, wrists, and knees and hips can take it. I don't know if I could. Maybe I should try. Maybe I should get a Ducati V4 Panigale and really dive back down the rabbit hole into what, the best of the best happens to be on the market today. I looked up my ZX7R, which was my last bike, and it barely put out 120 horsepower. And I say barely because it sounds like a lot less, but the new top of the food chain leader bikes, like a Ducati V4 Panigale, will put out 230 something if you get the race spec, limited edition, carbon fiber, Ducati sort of setup. They're great. It's a great friend. I've often found myself, if there's something troubling, and I've had this for a few months now. It arrived in May, June-ish, I think. I'm recording this middle of August, and I found myself a few times in the last several months, maybe feeling down on myself or something was getting in my way, and I needed to get a breather and clear my mind. I have the Porsche Spyder RS over here. I've got an 800 horsepower tuned 911 turbo. This one's for sale, by the way. I'll put a link for it below if you're interested. I found myself reaching for the keys for this and strapping on my helmet. Shout out to Mr. Chad Thundercock, by the way. and just going for a rip. You know, you're by yourself, you're enclosed in your helmet, you're doing everything with every part of your body. It's unforgettable, you know, everything, both feet and hands. And it's not just this, it's like hands and balance. You're doing everything everywhere with these things. You never forget how to ride them. I think I stalled it once or twice and that was it. You never forget how to ride them. The going around bends and balancing it and trusting it a little bit at first took some getting used to, but like with everything else, once you learn how to ride a bicycle, you never forget. You get back on these things and it's like an old friend. And you have a good time. So thank you, Charles, for giving me your motorcycle. It was a bit of a hassle getting it from Tennessee, but we got it. You know, importing things from the United States to Canada with customs and the regulatory bureaucrat red tape BS is a real pain in the butt. But, you know, it sits here plated, licensed in my name and rideable. And it's a good friend. It's his old friend, my new friend. I don't know how long I'll be riding this particular bike. I might put it in my studio, my podcast studio as a background prop. I've got other ideas. Maybe I'll run them by Charles. I'm going to see him in a couple months. Yeah, maybe I'll get some more bikes. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. It's one of those things. But it's been a good connection. It's been a really, really great connection. You know, one of the things I said to him as soon as it arrived and I started it up and I wrote it for the first time is, you know, I thanked him with gratitude. And by the way, I'll have my editor put up some images of Charles with his cool photo shoots on his bike when he first got it and got it all decked out, because he does cool way better than I do with photo shoots. I'll have to try to figure that one out. You know, I messaged him, I said, you know, thanks for, you know, the bike. Happy to be the custodian of this beautiful beast for next little while. He said, it's yours, keep it. The thing that really lit me up the most when I first got on it and I started it was the smell of fuel and oil and everything. Because, I mean, the only difference with this one versus what I used to ride is it's fuel injected versus carbureted. Aside from that, the technology is pretty much the same. I don't know if it has ABS. I haven't tested the brakes that hard. I don't know if it has traction control. I haven't really opened the throttle that hard. It seems to grip pretty hard coming out of corners, I should say. But it was the smell of fuel, oil, and gas, and like all of that sort of like mixtured as you're sitting on it, and it's like there right underneath you. It's just amazing. It's such a good feeling. I highly, highly recommend all men pick a bike at one point. I know there's going to be the, oh, it's dangerous crowd out there, and it's like, well, guys, you know, life is dangerous. You know, if you're a man, you're going to have to take risks. You're going to have to do dangerous things. It's incumbent upon you to develop yourself and develop these skills as a man. And I think that one of the things that a good companion and friend like a motorcycle can do is it opens that pathway for you. It shows you maybe the way to the dark side, you know, we can call it. I don't know how you want to sort of position it, but it's a tremendous amount of fun. The barrier to entry is very, very low compared to things like these, you know, for example. I would probably argue that this thing accelerates as fast as this, maybe close to this. I don't know. This is a very fast car off the line with the all-wheel drive and the tune. But the barrier to entry is so cheap. These I looked them up. $7,000 you can pick one of these up for. 6.5, you know, depending on the mileage and the condition. This one has a lot of aftermarket parts on it. It looks cool. It gets looks, surprisingly, for something this inexpensive. But she's a beauty. So I wanted to share my experience over the last 1,000 kilometers. Nothing has really changed. People still wave at you. In fact, I would argue more people wave at me on this bike than I got on my ZX7, because the ZX7 was in a sport bike category, and the Harley guys never really looked your way. This is kind of like the bastard mongoloid stepchild of the sport bike and the cruiser sort of together. So everybody waves at you, you know, on one of these things. Everybody sort of looks at it and they're intrigued. Some will even approach you and talk to you as you're, you know, dealing with it, sort of thing. It's a fun thing. Again, my position, everything I talked about in that chapter of my book has not changed. You can see that AI basically pulled up everything that I initially talked about in my book. I'm very grateful to my friend Charles for his contribution to my life and this incredible gift. You know, hopefully I can pay that forward with more, you know, for my community and the viewership that come here to this channel, my other stuff. You can check out my other channels. I'll put cards up at the top right. That's where the good stuff really happens. This is kind of my hobby channel. I love it, man. I'm so chuffed to be back on two wheels. I just can't. I can't. It's just amazing. So thank you for watching, guys. That's just my quick update on the new addition to the garage. See you guys in the next video. Peace out.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough,